Welcome to yet another fantastic episode of The Green Line right here on Rapid TV. Last week, we had an amazing conversation with Swafon farmers. It was basically farmers representing women in rural communities. And the insights that we got from that conversation, it was honestly everything that Nigeria needed to know about fixing, the gap between the male and the female in the agricultural ecosystem. And for today, we'll be talking about something as important as the last that we've had. Now, in today's interconnected world, food does not just grow on farms. It is shaped by geopolitics. And you'd agree that when we are talking about geopolitics, a lot has been happening in the last couple of weeks. We'll be diving down into how that affects agriculture in Nigeria. Let's go out on a quick break.
From the soil beneath our feet to the tables across the world, agriculture is the heartbeat of Nigeria's future. Yet challenges persist. Limited finance, outdated methods, policy gaps, and untapped opportunities. The Green Line is here to change that. A groundbreaking weekly television feature that connects policy with practice, farmers with markets, and innovation with impact. We dig deep into the full agricultural value chain, from land preparation to mechanization, financing, food preservation, exports, and beyond. With expert insights, success stories, and bold conversations, the Green Line isn't just a show, it's a national development platform. Educating, informing, entertaining, inspiring the next generation of agropreneurs. The Green Line connects Nigeria's agriculture to its true potential. Join me every Friday at 11 a.m. only on Rapid TV, Star Times Channel 176, and online at www.rbnradiotv.com.
All right, welcome back. Now, from the Russia-Ukraine war to rising tensions across the Middle East, global crises are quietly but significantly shaping agricultural systems, affecting everything from fertilizer supply to food prices, energy costs, and international trade routes. Now, the Middle East alone accounts for nearly 30% of global oil supply, and with about 12 to 15% of global trade passing through critical routes like the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. Disruptions in this region are already driving up shipping costs, delaying supply chains, and increasing the price of key agricultural inputs. For countries like Nigeria, where farmers depend heavily on imported fertilizer, agrochemicals, and machinery, these shocks are not distant at all. They are reflected in rising production costs, reduced yields, and ultimately higher food prices in our market. Now, at a time when Nigeria is already battling food inflation and post-harvest losses for up to 30 to 40%, the ripple effect of global instability are placing even more pressure on an already fragile system. So, today on The Green Line, we will examine how the Middle East crisis is influencing agriculture far beyond its borders and what it means for farmers, market, and food security here at home. And more importantly, how policies and local resilience must respond in a world where global shocks are becoming the normal. And to join us for this conversation today is Mr. Emmanuel Ansah Prefi. He is the founder and CEO of AgriOne Technologies.
From the soil beneath our feet to the tables across the world, agriculture is the heartbeat of Nigeria's future. Yet challenges persist. Limited finance, outdated methods, policy gaps, and untapped opportunities. The Green Line is here to change that. A groundbreaking weekly television feature that connects policy with practice, farmers with markets, and innovation with impact. We dig deep into the full agricultural value chain, from land preparation to mechanization, financing, food preservation, exports, and beyond. With expert insights, success stories, and bold conversations, The Green Line isn't just a show, It's a national development platform, educating, informing, entertaining, inspiring the next generation of agropreneurs. The Green Line connects Nigeria's agriculture to its true potential. Join me every Friday at 11 a.m. only on Rapid TV, Star Times Channel 176, and online at www.rbnradiotv.com.
Join us today for the conversation. We have Mr. Emmanuel Ansah-Profi. He is the founder and CEO of Agri-One Technologies. Thank you so much, Mr. Ansah-Profi, for joining us on the conversation this morning.
Thank you very much, and I'm glad to be here.
All right. I'm very well, thank you. Now, when I started off, talking about the crisis in the Middle East and how it affected Nigeria and what have you. Now, some people, of course, were of the opinion that, oh, it's far Middle East, it has nothing to do with Nigeria. I thought it was just oil that was the problem. We didn't know that it extended also to the agricultural ecosystem. Now, when Nigerians hear about this crisis, it feels distant, and I mean, justifiably so, right? So can you help us connect the dots? How does the crisis directly affect the farmer on the farmland here in Nigeria?
All right, thank you very much, and greetings to your viewers and listeners. For this, we are in a global village now, so it means that whatever affects your neighbor, it's going to affect us.
Certainly.
If you look at the Russia-Ukraine, a lot of people were thinking that it's not affecting us, but it's affecting your average bread, because the wheat that we use to produce the bread, the flour, is actually coming from Ukraine. Ukraine was the largest producer
of flour.
Now, this current one is actually affecting not only the fuel sector, because actually you need a diesel to be able to power your most machines on the farms.
Tractors and what have you, yes.
Yeah, so the tractors like this, the cost per hectare is going to rise, because the average tractor owner will now have to put more money in getting the tractors onto the field. So this is going to affect the cost per hectare for plowing services or for anything agricultural mechanization. Secondly, the average smallholder farmer uses fertilizer. And even though in as much as Nigeria is well positioned and to be able to solve the fertilizer need, we've not really taken much the advantage that we have as a continent, even as a country first. And so you have domestic urea production capacity just around 4.4 million metric tons, which is between Dangote and Indorama. But then there is a capacity to do more. And so your average price of fertilizer is going to shoot up more than 11%.
Okay.
So now if you factor this into your cost of production, it means that your cost of production is going to go high. Already, food insecurity is an issue, and therefore it's going to now affect the average Wuye market or the average Uchako markets that you see. And so these are all some of the issues that is going to affect farmers. So it's not far from us at all.
Not far from us. Now, how exposed is Nigeria's agricultural system to these global geopolitical shocks? Because to an extent, you have made mention of the fact that agriculture and fertilizers also, and the diesel also plays a part, especially because you have to power your tractors and your big machines that you would use on the farmland. But how exposed are we to geopolitical shocks? Not just that of the Middle East or Ukraine and the Ukraine war. So what other shocks are we exposed to, and how exposed are we to geopolitical shocks, basically?
We're very, very much exposed, and the fact is that you're looking at it this way.
Okay.
Mind you, Nigeria is the largest and most populous black nation on earth.
Okay.
And so therefore you have a lot of these. The demand for food will rise, and because we have more people now wanting to access food, and so with the growing demand, with the growing populace as well, we have the youngest population. I mean, when you say we are looking at Africa.
Okay.
So whatever happens on the other side affects us. Mind you, the EU, the African youth migration into the EU is actually definitely affecting us in the area of brain drain. But when it comes to food specifically, one, Your average factories that are manufacturing the Indomies or all those brands are using diesel to power their machines.
Okay.
So it means that cost of these things are going to go up because they will definitely have to pass on to the consumer. Now, if you look at it all, yet the price of a 50 kilogram of bag of cement
Okay.
that you need for your farm, your corn or your average corn was going to already has shot up by 50%. So it affects us no matter what. Now, the diesel, not just the diesel, but the other fuel that we use,
Yeah.
in as much as Nigeria produces much of oil or crude, has it not been the current, recently Dangote refinery coming up? It means that most of this oil we're going to be importing. We're importing finished products. So if they block the canal, it will definitely reach us wherever we are in other Jos or Abeokuta or whatever parts of Nigeria that we are in. So we are very much exposed. It's not the previous whereby it's happening to your neighbor and you can shut your doors and say, we are.
It's none of my
Because also we
business.
are not, yes, it is because also we are not food sufficient. If we are food sufficient, maybe we'll be able to reduce some of the shocks. But today we are importing some of our major food intake. I mean, our poultry, our protein needs, as all of them are being affected by this. Because if Denmark is producing the milk, whereby Denmark also needs the fuel to be able to power their farms.
Yes.
And bringing the Dano milk or whatever milk that is coming over to us, they will definitely pass the cost to us. So the average, it affects everybody.
Everybody. So it's a global kind of shock.
It is.
All right.
Is. That is why it's really important for us to be abreast with some of the issues and speak about it. Our leaders should be able to speak about it in the various UN or AU conferences or ECOWAS conferences to bring much more broader solutions to all.
So yeah, okay. Now that you've made mention, because from your last response, you were talking about how we as a nation should come about devising strategies to reduce some of these shocks that we experience, especially in the agricultural ecosystem. Can you give us some practical examples of some of the steps that we will take to reduce these shocks? Because honestly, apart from the fact that there is inavailability or unavailability of food because of some of these shocks. We have spotlighted the diesel, the cost of diesel, the cost of fertilizers and what have you, which in turn spirals the cost of food in the market. What other things do you think we can do as a nation to actively combat experiencing these shocks at any slightest inconvenience?
Well, the most practical one that we should be looking at is strengthening our food system, our agri-food system. How do we strengthen our agri-food system? To make a conscious effort of mechanization. Okay. That is to say that government investment in the area of land preparation, land development for agricultural purposes must be properly done. Now, I can just give you one basic example.
Go ahead.
Let's look at University of Abuja, sitting on how many hectares of, thousands of hectares of land. Now, it will properly put the University of Abuja's land into use properly under mechanized agriculture with some of the students and the youth within the same Guagulada and its environs. It is going to give a lot of now food to the markets within Abuja, Maraba, and all surrounding areas will be cheaper. That, in other way, what we will be doing is that you will now guaranteeing jobs for your youth who are coming out of the schools. So once you are able to have enough production of this food, you are now limiting the kind of exposure and the shocks that comes to you because you are not importing most of these things. And so those are the things. Once we were able to start government critically investing in the agricultural infrastructure, we are not nowhere near reducing or mitigating against the risk. Another key area is that Nigeria is actually the largest producer of cassava and yam. Now, this cassava, we use fertilizer and this thing to make sure that we produce it well. But then, if we are producing enough fertilizers in Nigeria already, it means that our cost of production will be lower, and then a lower logistic cost as well. So your fertilizer will have a stable price that will now equally help the farmers to be able to produce better and produce more. Now the cassava itself can now be turned into, these days cassava and yam will be turned into finished products that will now help the keep longer on the shelves. And sometimes cassava flour now is been proven to be one of the good flours that
Healthiest.
we could have. So
Yeah.
it means that we are reducing the risk, the exposure that we have on importing wheat from Ukraine. Last but not the least, if we put a place like Kaduna State under proper cultivation, now Kaduna State alone, the landmass of Kaduna State, it's equally the same landmass of that of Ukraine. And Ukraine is the world's largest producer of wheat. So imagine we put Kaduna State into proper cultivation. It means that Kaduna will be able to feed not only Nigeria, but it can actually feed the rest of West Africa with which wheat needs, which will also be generating good revenue for us. So these are some of the practical things that we need to do.
All right.
Last, we actually put our youth. So let's see the coppers. The coppers are one of the most organized people right now. Now, how do we now make sure that at their time of camp, we are training them to be able to use these tractors? We are training them to be able to use these modern drone machines to make agric more, quote unquote, sexy and appealing to them.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to now have a lot of good young people getting into the agric space, which will prolong your farmer's lifeline and then helping you with the cultivation and even value addition.
All right. I see you quoting the president there. Sexy and appealing. He made mention of that some time ago, making agriculture appealing to the young people. Now, just to add to what you have said, being able to curtail the post-harvest losses is also another way to sustain what we already have. In fact, today on the breakfast show, we were talking about how some of these post-harvest losses. In fact, we had a video from the Edo state of Nigeria where we had lots of pineapple on the ground that had wasted because there were no buyers, and farmers were calling on the government to help with processing facilities just so that these things do not go to waste. We can produce other variants from the pineapples that we have on the ground and what have you. So now, post-harvest losses we still stand at about 30 to 40% when it comes to post-harvest losses. Now, what steps again would you recommend for the government to reduce these post-harvest losses? I know processing is one of them, but there are many others that we can implement to ensure that our natural resources that we have do not go to waste, and then we go back to import that which we already have in abundance in our country.
Right. These are basics that every governor, it doesn't need the federal government to come and give you, but the state governors should be able to tackle this from onset. You know the amount, if you have proper data of your farmers, you know the amount of produce that is going to be churned out. Let's see, pineapple. Pineapple is 14-month cycle. You have 14 months, 12 to 14 months before pineapple will now be able to be harvested. It means that the moment they start planting, you should have made room to absorb these things by little and small machines of juicing. So pineapple actually can be used for a lot of things. So the juice can be used for the normal juice that we now package to be sold in the schools or the supermarkets. Equally, you can actually brew beer from pineapple.
Tapache. I see people do something tapache. I don't know if it's like a very widely known thing.
Oh yeah, it's becoming one of the key good, because you don't need to put in any extra sugar. Unlike when they are using the Baileys and all those ones, they put in extra sugar. Pineapple beer, it's now something that is coming up. So there's a lot of things that can be done with the pineapple. You don't have to wait for the farmers to finish harvest and now becomes an issue. It should be small, what we call the micro enterprises, or what we call the cottage industry. So a small place that has a juicing facility could now juice, box it, or even keep it in the plastics containers under cold chain refrigeration and that can stay over the shelf for between 5 to 7 days, which is without any preservatives. But if you want to now go with the Tetra box and all those packaging, it could now stay longer so that we don't import. I mean, I'll keep saying we keep importing things
that we have
into the country without even knowing exactly what factories these things are coming from.
Okay.
And most of these places, imagine importing juice from Dubai. Tell me how many pineapple farms are there in
Do
Dubai?
they have?
Exactly. So those are some of the things that we need to, as state government and as also investors. It's not always the government. Sometimes the investors are equally part of it. But do you have the enabling business environment for the investor to be able to thrive, i.e. the taxes, the power that these people need to use, and then the various bottlenecks that are around doing business in the country. So those are some of the things that we can do to reduce all these post-harvest losses.
All right. Thank you very much again, Mr. Ansah Prafi, for joining us on the conversation. Now, let's just ask one question also. We know that food inflation rate in Nigeria is about 12% year-on-year basis as of February 2026, up from about 8% in January of 2026. And we know that these geopolitical shocks happen to be one of the major reasons we have this food inflation as well. Now, there are other factors. Can you help us explore some of the other factors that drive food inflation here in Nigeria and how we can curtail this?
Well, the last bits will be on the seasonality of our production pattern. Now, the rains are about to get in anywhere from this month, and that's where everybody will start cultivating.
Yes.
But the moment the rains are off, the rains are gone, nobody is cultivating, because our lands are not properly irrigated. I mean, if you look through the whole of Nigeria, we have over more than 3 million available hectares that could be used for irrigation.
Okay.
But only 5% out of 3 million hectares is currently irrigated. So if you don't have constant production, which is back to with irrigation, you're not going to have constant food. Okay. So you have tomatoes coming up onto the market next week or next couple of months, and you'll be buying a basket for, let's just say, 15K. But the same tomatoes in the next 3 months or so, when we don't have the rains here, we'll be buying that same tomatoes for more than 50K or 75K. So it depends. We need to make a conscious effort to invest in our agricultural infrastructure. And the agricultural infrastructure, it means, one, security for the farmer, because earlier on I heard what is going on in Jos. So if it is even happening in the homes, how much more on the farms? So security for the farmer to be able to make sure that they can cultivate without any fear of attacks from all these herdsmen or other people. Equally, the issue of irrigation and the issue of mechanization, and then putting your youth into the proper agricultural systems, make it more attractive for them to stay in. Not just attractive, but equally make it profitable. These are some of the things that can help us reduce these shocks and this stress, and then food inflation will be able to go down.
All right. Now, finally, let's hear your final thoughts on the implication of this crisis in our agricultural system here in Nigeria, and what your recommendation to the government would be.
Right. I mean, if we don't stop importing the major food items that we do consume, these things will affect us. And it's therefore important for government to make conscious effort. And when we say government, we are not just looking at the states, we are not looking at the federal government, because the state governors and government will have a role to play. It affects them closer than federal. So they should make a conscious effort in investing in agricultural infrastructure, security for the farmers, and equally make it as a deliberate effort. We can put a 5-year plan and then break that 5-year plan into smaller bits by making sure that we want to tackle production of maize. We want to tackle production of maize, and this is the figure we want to reach. We make that, let's finish with maize, move with ginger, and systematically, we'll give ourselves 5 years. We'll be able to be food sufficient once we have this properly knitted. That means each part fixing the other ones, and then reducing the fertilizer market volatility, and then increase irrigation production. We will be able to meet some of these demands, and then the global shocks will not affect us as too much as once they sneeze, we all catch cold.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel Antaprofi, for joining us on the conversation. It was definitely a delight having you here. We'll probably have you on more episodes to discuss, the agricultural ecosystem in Nigeria and how we can make it better. Thank you so much again.
The pleasure is all mine. Have a lovely day.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of your day.
Sure. Bye.
Now, what today's conversation reminds us is that agriculture no longer exists in isolation. From conflict zones to shipping routes, from oil prices to fertilizer supply, the global system is deeply interconnected. And for Nigeria, the lesson is clear. Resilience must be built at home because in a world of uncertainty, the strength of a nation's food system will determine its stability, its economy, and its future. And my conversation today with Mr. Emmanuel Antaprofi, the CEO of Agri-One Technologies, just proves the point that we need to find some sort of dependence on our own, look within, and build our market so that we do not become so susceptible to some of the shocks that we experience right now. All right, let's go out on a very quick break, and when we come back, we'll be exploring some of the best ways to engage in agricultural practices. We're talking about devising technology in agriculture.
Thanks to the all-new modular design of the T16, both the spray tank and batteries are easily swappable, which significantly improves operational efficiency. Its core module has a rating of IP67, making it easy for maintenance. The foldable aircraft arms are convenient for storage and transportation. A new battery management system and a 2600-watt 4-channel intelligent battery charger increase charging cycles by 100%. To target unevenly pesticide dosage, the DJI Agris T16 delivers more efficient.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. Now, you already see that there are smarter ways to doing things. Agriculture is becoming more fun and more interesting. Imagine drones being able to supply fertilizers across the farmland and, some very interesting irrigation systems across the land. Agriculture is the future, and I'm loving the fact that technology and agriculture is coming together to find smarter, better, and easier ways to doing things. Thank you so much for being with us on this episode of The Green Line. Remember, you can watch every single episode on YouTube at Official Rapid TV. Our website, www.rbnradiotv.com, allows you to connect with us anywhere in the world. So if you have friends or family looking to get into the agricultural business, better understand what agriculture means and how we can make it better, do well to share them the link, let them like, let them comment, and tell us what they think about The Green Line. Once again, we'll head out now and we'll be back next week.